But I want to talk about some international events. And with me now is Senior Vice President to Transatlantic Leadership Network. Sasha Toperich is with us. And Sasha, I saw you at an event last evening, and I'm like, man, I got to get Sasha on. We talked a long time about some of the things going on, but I really want to talk about a topic that we covered for a while and then kind of forgot about with impeachment. What is going on in Libya?
Well, John, good morning to you. First of all, I watched with sadness today's announcement of the impeachment procedure against our president, but let's see where this goes. In Libya, we're pushing the Berlin process. We're trying to bring the parties together and trying to reduce the Russian influence that through a Haftar general effort to conquer Tripoli, engaged about 1,000, some estimate says 1,400 Russian mercenaries through known troubling Wagner company. So yeah, that's I'm hopeful and cautiously optimistic that U.S. is going to be stronger engaged and lead our process with our allies and regional partners to stabilize the country.
When you say there's 1,400 Russian mercenaries, what does that mean? Define that, Sasha.
Well, that means that Haftar gambled so badly and by the way, he also is a bearer of an American passport. He's a Libyan American. He gambled much to be a new Gaddafi, and he mobilized some of the tribal folks within the east parts of the Libya and then paid the mercenaries then from Chad and Sudan. That is very much known information from some time, but the Russians that I have alerted in my article at The Hill magazine already in May, after Haftar started the attack on Tripoli in April, he is running out of people who are willing to fight, and he's determined to produce further turmoil in the country, and he has engaged additional manpower, and these happen to be Russians. Haftar has been a lot in Moscow. He has met with the leadership in Kremlin and the military leadership, and most likely he has promised these things he, again, most likely cannot deliver, but in the meantime, he's having Russian support and Russian heavy involvement in Libya, which is another fire on already very, very, very similar situation.
We're with Sasha Toperich. Sasha travels the world. He's Senior Vice President to the Transatlantic Leadership Network. Sasha, what is the U.S. position, as you understand it right now, as it in regards to Libya?
Well, I think the United States is now is actually have a pretty much consistent policies from the emergence of the crisis, and we're supporting the United Nations-led process. I believe it will support the Berlin process. And look, the United States is talking to all the sides, trying to bring them back to the negotiating table. It's going to be very difficult. As the gamble that Haftar has unfortunately has literally created such a huge setback for the country. I think if we would look now into the animosities and the problems between the people within the country, they're far more deeper rooted now than they were before April and before Haftar attacked Tripoli.
So,
but I think, John, just to tell you, I think that the United States will be more engaged now because we cannot. Libya is not in Syria. We cannot have a situation where the Russians are going to just walk in some way. And the United States has invested a lot. At the end of the day, for the better or the worse, it was the United States in a previous administration who supported the Arab Spring in Libya. We have paid a heavy price in Libya, even by blood. As you know, everybody knows our ambassador was killed along with the three other top-ranking U.S. diplomats in Benghazi. So and Libyans love Americans. Libyan loves Americans. So I think this is now a time that the U.S. will step forward, and I think this is the battle for the benefit of a well-being and a good stability of the Libyan people first and foremost, and the great relationship that we will have and have with the Libyan people. U.S. will step up.
Excellent analysis, Sasha. As always, we're with Sasha Toperich. He's Senior Vice President to the Transatlantic Leadership Network, which is tell us a little bit about your think tank. I know you've worked on this a long time. You're just at the edge of putting it together in a big way. If you could just take a minute, and then I'll get to another topic. Just share with our audience about the Transatlantic Leadership Network.
Well, I've been a 6 years director of the Mediterranean Basin, Middle East, and the Gulf project at the Johns Hopkins think tank Center for Transatlantic Relations that was ceased last year, and some of the leaders independently to it, we've decided to open another think tank. So in one way, it's a continuation of an effort that I've been engaged with my colleagues separately and together for 6-7 years already. And I personally work a lot in Algeria, in Tunisia, in Libya, in Egypt, Turkey, whole Middle East, and the Gulf. There are exciting projects coming on. We just had a conference on Eastern Mediterranean in Greece with our Greek partners and supporting American great work, and the great work our ambassador, Jeffrey Piat, in essence, is doing to promote the energy diversification and energy security in Eastern Mediterranean. And there has been, John, really significant progress made now. American people may not know it that much because we are all now bombarded with the Mueller report and Russia investigation and impeachment and balloonies of a different sort. But we have the U.S. Embassy in Greece has made substantial progress with our partners to promote energy diversification. And our now former Secretary Perry had a lot of a huge effort that he has done, and a lot of credit to get. There has been interconnector created between Greece and Bulgaria. There are other renewable projects and a pipeline, and this will, to some extent, decrease Russian influence and the Russian energy influence that our allies in Europe have.
I have to say, I love what you're doing. I love the vision of the Transatlantic Leadership Network, and I know you're doing everything by the book, and there's a lot of legal loopholes to go through when you do one of these things, and you worked on it a long time. I'm very excited about it, the potential it has, and it's going to be a great platform for you in order to just get news out and information out to people in the U.S. and other areas about those regions, because there's a lot of, as you know, Sasha, a lot of fake news out there. You're on a special edition of the John Fredericks Show. We're live in Washington, D.C. Sasha Toperich with us. Sasha, we were talking last evening. We had a fascinating discussion last night, and I went home and I was thinking about it, and I want you to share with our audience, as you travel the world, here's one thing that Sasha said to me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to get him to expand on it. He says, when people want to get news in the U.S., they turn on CNN. That's just what they do, right? So whether you're in Libya or you're in the Gulf or you're in you're somewhere in the Middle East, you go to your hotel, you hit the button, CNN comes on. And what other people in other countries in your network, how are they responding to impeachment?
Well, look, I think people do see the President Trump as a very strong a leader that, has his flops here and there, but is a person who does what he says, and they take him seriously. So everybody looked like, okay, there is a possible gap within the Democratic electorate now who can seriously challenge President. So the people are looking at this as an attempt to sort of gain some traction for 2020 elections. If you look, President stood up to China. I think we should have a great relationship with China. I think we should have a great, fair trade deal with China, and that's what the President and this administration is trying to do. And this is going to bring more jobs to the American people, to our allies. Look, the Congress is going to work on an impeachment, but the President has improved the Mexican-Canadian trade deal that the Congress has to ratify. So, people in the world pay attention. We moved our embassy to Jerusalem in Israel after every president and the presidential candidate in the previous elections would vow to do so. It was President Trump who actually did it. Some people will disagree with the move, or some people will not, but that's irrelevant. is the consistency of the U.S. policy that he has implemented. Look, the people talk about the NATO, and even in a hearing yesterday when I had a little bit of a time to watch some of esteemed professors who were testifying, look, I don't see the United States and this administration against the NATO. Maybe NATO is not the most of the priorities, but the point that the president has made, look, what we call famous 2% of contribution is relevant. And, you can't just go around and, I would not consider myself that of an expert, but as a person who, as you said, travels really much extensive in the world and has been to various troubling places, including Mosul, when we were liberating Mosul from ISIS, and other places where I've seen even, fighting almost first hand. The 2% commitment matters. It does matter. It is strengthening the alliance that has grown from 16 founding members to 26. It's a bureaucracy. It's a political clout that is excellent, that is important. And I don't believe that the president would ever bail out. But I think in his style that is somewhat unconventional, he did come to the people and say, okay, guys, put up with the money that we are putting and that some countries in the alliance are putting up. There is nothing wrong. So, look, there is a lot of, as you say, misperceptions, a lot of fake news, a lot of issues, and it's just sad. You really turn on the CNN, and the only thing almost, you can't hear what is happening in the world, what the United States is doing in the world. You only hear Mueller investigation, Russia investigation, and now it's all the time impeachment. Look, the American people will endure this. I think we will all have a great and exciting 2020, and I think that we'll see what the election will bring, but I think this will, at the end of the day, play into the hand to the president.
When you talk to people that are in positions of authority and other political positions throughout the Middle East, throughout the Gulf, and they look at what's going on with these impeachment hearings on CNN, are they laughing at us?
To a certain extent, yes. But again, we have to uphold and honor democratic process and the Constitution and the democracy and the rights that Congress has and administration has and people have. So from that end, there is, it's a respect to the United States, but it is a sort of a mockery because, there's so much going on in the world and there's so much that, look our economy, look our trade deals. If you think there's so many positive news and so many exciting new things to be done, and Congress has a lot to achieve, and it will all be stalled now because everybody will be looking into impeachment, and maybe, or most probably, he will be impeached in the House, but of course he will fail to be impeached in the Senate at the trial, and what we'll have, everything is simply for the elections, and people in the world understand that, and if I would tell you gossips without the naming people, they would say, well, this will play very well for the President Trump. It will help him at the end of the day to win a re-election in 2020 because this is, from day one, he has been not let loose by the mainstream media and has been continuously attacked over and over and over and over again. And it became so much of a ridicule when you talk to the people that everybody just make one comment, we think he will be re-elected in 2020.
Well, I believe he is going to win again, and I believe it's going to be bigger than he won in 2016 based on the economy and based on, Sasha, the American public has a sense of fairness. That's why if you go back to the Clinton impeachment, when the thing was over, his approval rating shot up like in the high 60s, low 70s, because people really didn't think the whole process to him was a good thing. I mean, they didn't like what he did with Monica Lewinsky, but the whole impeachment thing was never really about that. And then it was what is, and people just tired of this. I think they're tired of it. If you saw Nancy Pelosi today come on the balcony, basically what she did is she stopped it. She pulled the plug, got rid of the Nadler clown show that was going on in there. All the polling they're looking at is a disaster for them. They pulled the plug. She's in a box. They're going to go forward with the vote. I don't think she would have done the press conference today, Sasha. I said this in the earlier hours. She'd have never done that from the balcony if they didn't whip the votes last night. They know they have them. He's going to get impeached. Here's the problem. It's going to the U.S. Senate. The president has already called for a full, open, and transparent trial so that he can get exonerated. They're going to call Biden. They're going to call Hunter Biden. They're going to call the whole bunch of them. And it's going to be a disaster for the Dems. So we'll see what plays out.
And then listen, if you think about it, what can you say in the election? How can you beat the guy who has a very peculiar style, many don't like, but who has the results? We have a booming economy. We have a highest, actually lowest unemployment in the Hispanic, black, white, name it, throughout the country. The trade deals that are going better. We stood up as a nation to the countries, including with our allies. I don't see that we should. Honestly, I don't think it's a right and a good political approach that you shove the stuff under the table. Mm-hmm. If you have a strong allies and you are 70 years together with the NATO, you know what? You have to come up and say, even publicly, look, we cannot continue like this. I mean, look, President Obama even came earlier, but that was sort of a shush. It was not as bold and demanding and strong as the President Trump did. He also came. Look, we can't just carry all this burden by ourselves. And look, it's an interest of our European allies. It's an interest of the United States. So how can you confront in a rational way for the American people that these actions are not right? How can you not say even opening negotiations with North Korea? You know, if you look at it, there is little that on a foreign policy front. And by the way, John, President, and every human being will be challenged, and everybody can share different views, different opinions, different strategies. There will be always but. It is always much more easier to criticize and than to praise. But, you know, in a reality, if you rationally look to the achievements and under which circumstances, I really don't see how you can boast on a domestic front to larger extent, and on a foreign policy front, how you can be the president. I just don't see.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, Sasha Toperich.
Thank you, John. Always good to be with you, and God bless you.
All right, Sasha. I always wanted to thank you for being with us. I have to get you on more because I love what you're doing again with the Transatlantic Leadership Network. I know you've worked on it very hard and very long. You got to get it funded. You got to in D.C. You got all the T's crossed, I's dots, go through the lawyers, DOJ. You got all that stuff to do. But I know you're right at the finish line, and I'm excited about what you're doing. And I'll look forward to seeing you this weekend at the Doha Forum, the 25th annual Doha Forum. This is going to be my third time there. So I'm really looking forward to it in Qatar, and we'll be at the Doha Forum Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I'm not on the air live those days. Normally I've done that. This time I'm not. This is just too much work. But we're really looking forward to that. And they've got some great panels, and I'm very excited about it. And I will see you there over the weekend.
Looking forward. Have a safe travels, and God bless you. God bless all our American patriots and this great nation. Take care, John.
Thank you, Sasha Toperich.